silent people are hard to control. They do not react easily. They do not explain every little thing. They do not beg to be understood. They do not waste energy proving their worth to people who only want to misunderstand them. And that is what makes them powerful. A silent person is not always weak. Sometimes, a silent person is someone who has seen enough. Someone who has been hurt enough. Someone who has learned that not every situation deserves a reaction. They know some people do not want peace. Some people want attention. Some people want access. Some people want control. Some people want to disturb your mind, then blame you for being disturbed. And when a silent person refuses to play that game, toxic people become uncomfortable. Because toxic people feed on reactions. They want your anger. They want your confusion. They want your emotional breakdown. They want long explanations. They want proof that they still have power over you. But silent people deny them that power. And this is where the balance begins to change. The toxic person expects you to explain, defend, and emotionally collapse. But instead you stay calm. You do not give them the scene they prepared for. You do not hand them your peace. You let their words fall without picking them up. That quiet response becomes a mirror. It shows them that their tricks are losing power. It shows them that your emotions are no longer open for anyone to enter and disturb whenever they want. And for someone who survives on control, that silence feels unbearable and deeply unsettling inside. And there is a quiet confidence in that. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you stop letting another person decide your mood. You become harder to shake. You become harder to pull into useless battles. The toxic person may still speak loudly, but their noise no longer controls your inner world. They can throw words, create drama, and pretend to be innocent, but your calmness exposes the truth. It shows that their power was never real. It was only borrowed from your reaction. Once you take that reaction back, they have nothing left to hold over your heart and mind. They also notice something else. The less you explain, the clearer you become. The less you chase, the stronger you look. And the less you react, the more their mask slowly begins to fall apart completely. They observe. They understand. Then they step back. To a toxic person, that silence feels like defeat. Because when they cannot make you react, they cannot easily manipulate you. Toxic people depend on emotional noise. They create problems, then act innocent. They hurt you, then ask why you are upset. They disrespect you, then call you sensitive. They cross your boundaries, then say you are overreacting. They twist the story until you start questioning yourself. This is how they stay in control. They want you to defend yourself. They want you to argue. They want you to explain your pain again and again. Because the more you explain, the more chances they have to twist your words. The more you react, the more they can make you look unstable. But silent people do something different. They stop giving speeches. They stop defending every detail. They stop begging the wrong person to understand. They become quiet. Not because they have no answer, but because they finally understand that the person in front of them is not listening to understand. They are listening to respond. They are listening to attack. They are listening to find weakness. And once a silent person realizes this, they stop giving them material. That is when toxic people begin to hate them. Because silence removes their weapon. A toxic person can only control you if they know where your emotional buttons are. If they know what makes you angry, they will press it. If they know what makes you insecure, they will use it. If they know what makes you afraid of losing them, they will threaten distance. They study your wounds not to heal them, but to use them. That is why silent people are difficult for them. Silent people do not reveal everything. They do not expose every weakness. They do not show every emotion. They do not tell every detail of their inner world. They keep parts of themselves protected. And toxic people hate not having access. They hate not knowing what you are thinking. They hate not knowing whether their words hurt you. They hate not knowing whether their tricks are working. To a toxic person, silence feels like a locked door. And they cannot stand locked doors. They want your emotions in their hands. They want to know exactly what to say to break your peace. But silent people make them guess. And that guessing makes toxic people nervous. Because for once, they are not in control. Silent people are often very observant. They notice fake apologies. They notice hidden disrespect. They notice patterns. They notice when words and actions do not match. They may not speak about it immediately, but they remember. Toxic people often think quiet means naive, gentle means weak, and forgiving means forgetful. But silent people are not blind. They are patient. Once they see the truth, they do not always announce it. They simply adjust. They stop sharing. They stop trusting. They stop opening up. And toxic people feel the emotional door closing. They say, "You changed." But what they really mean is, "You are no longer easy to control." Another reason toxic people hate silent people is that silent people do not always seek revenge. Toxic people understand revenge. They understand arguments. They understand drama. They understand fighting back. What they do not understand is quiet withdrawal. They do not understand someone choosing peace instead of punishment. They do not understand someone walking away without trying to destroy them. They do not understand someone seeing the truth and simply deciding, "I do not want this energy anymore." That kind of silence confuses them. Because toxic people often expect others to behave like them. If they were hurt, they would try to hurt back. If they were rejected, they would try to punish. If they lost control, they would create chaos. So when a silent person simply leaves, it gives them no fight to win. No argument to dominate. No emotional explosion to use as proof. Just absence. And absence is powerful. Sometimes the loudest message is not a paragraph. It is not an insult. It is not a final speech. It is the quiet removal of your presence. Toxic people hate that because it makes them face the consequence of their own behavior. They do not lose you through one big event. They lose you through every small moment they thought did not matter. But there is something important to understand. Silence is powerful only when it comes from peace, not fear. There is healthy silence. And there is wounded silence. Healthy silence says, "I will not waste my energy on disrespect. I know what this is. I choose peace. I do not need to prove myself to someone committed to misunderstanding me. I am allowed to walk away." But wounded silence says, "I am afraid to speak. My feelings do not matter. No one will understand me. I should just disappear. I do not deserve to be heard." These two kinds of silence may look similar from the outside, but inside they are completely different. One is self-respect. The other is pain. So if you are a silent person, ask yourself, am I staying quiet because I am protecting my peace? Or am I staying quiet because I am afraid to use my voice? Am I setting a boundary? Or am I hoping someone reads my mind? These questions matter. Because silence should protect you. It should not imprison you. You deserve peace. But you also deserve to be heard by the right people. If you are dealing with a toxic person, remember this. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to respond to every insult. You do not have to explain your pain to someone who enjoys causing it. You do not have to keep proving your heart to someone who keeps damaging it. Sometimes the best response is distance. Sometimes the strongest answer is silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop giving your energy to people who only use it to hurt you. Silence does not mean you are weak. Silence means you are choosing your battles. Silence means your peace is valuable. Silence means you are no longer available for emotional games. And when toxic people hate that, let them. Their hatred is not proof that you are wrong. Sometimes it is proof that your boundary is working. Because the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always be upset when you finally create them. They were comfortable when you explained too much. Comfortable when you forgave too quickly. Comfortable when you stayed available. Comfortable when you carried the relationship alone. But once you become silent, selective, and peaceful, they feel the loss of control. And they call it attitude. They call it arrogance. They call it coldness. But you know what it really is. It is growth. Toxic people hate silent people because silent people teach them a lesson without saying a word. They teach them that kindness has limits. They teach them that patience can end. They teach them that not everyone can be manipulated forever. They teach them that silence is not emptiness. They teach them that quiet people can walk away. They teach them that peace can be stronger than drama. A silent person does not need to destroy a toxic person. They simply remove themselves from the destruction. And that is enough. So why do toxic people hate silent people? Because silent people do not give easy access. Because silent people observe instead of react. Because silent people protect their emotions. Because silent people stop explaining when they see the truth. Because silent people choose peace over chaos. Because silent people can leave without revenge. Because silent people know how to close doors quietly. And most of all, because silent people remind toxic people of something they cannot control. A calm mind. A protected heart. A peaceful soul. And a person who no longer needs their approval. That is what toxic people truly hate. Not the silence itself, but the strength behind it. Because when a silent person finally understands their worth, they become impossible to manipulate. They no longer chase. They no longer beg. They no longer argue with lies. They no longer explain their pain to people who enjoy causing it. They become still. They become distant. They become peaceful. And if they must, they become gone. Not because they are weak. Not because they lost. But because they finally realize something important. Some people do not deserve your reaction. Some people do not deserve your explanation. Some people do not deserve your energy. That is why toxic people hate silent people. Because silence is not always empty. Sometimes silence is the sound of someone taking their power back.